Buongiorno, buonasera. Sorry. Hello. This is Mike Demuccio coming at you from Canada again, and this is Aligning with Success with my co-host Dave Rolfe. And so I missed weeks July 28th and August 4th. Those were weeks 30 and 31 that you were hosted by Dave, and he's got a few more pieces to that puzzle for today, and then you guys can give me a recap. Today, so it's August 11th. This is week 32 of our year. So we're clearly past the midpoint, and we're coming into the back end of the year. I hope some of you are on track to achieving your goals. I want to first of all acknowledge and recognize, since didn't have a chance to do that publicly, to Bela. This is such a great story. Here's a person who didn't want to join Nikan, but loved the idea of the products, and then goes on and falls in love with the products because of the profound effect it had on her, and she couldn't help herself but talk to people about it, and then has been on this call and others like it, like 100%, and has picked up the nuances of our business and our protocols, and here she goes, silver. And that's so awesome, Bela. I'm so proud of you, and that's really what we call the organic approach to building a Nikken business, where it's very authentic and very organic. So congratulations on that, and
You.
anything we can do to help replicate your success through your downline. So I hope you've got your eyes on somebody specifically, and if you don't, that's the next challenge. So with that in mind, I want to turn the call over to Dave, and he can pick up where he left off last week. Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, thanks and welcome back, Michael. The one thing I couldn't do was record our sessions. So
My
we two
fault.
weeks
That's mea culpa. I should have pre-planned that with you. That was a mistake on my part.
no problem. So the first week that you were gone, we talked about really knowing what your deal is, knowing what your plan is, having a strategy, asking the right questions, et cetera, et cetera. Then last week we got into, and I did create a video. It was sent out. It's on the Smart Networker if you didn't see it, on the concept of workability, and which followed suit. And then last Saturday I was on a mentoring call, and this next topic came up, and this will be for, this seems might be a regular basis where I do a video a week. But what came up was really interesting. The distributor and I had done one ABC call. We had a new prospect on the line to was interested in the business, and we gave them an overview and then gave them some homework. Now, one of the things that I found very important, giving somebody something to do really starts to tell you whether they're on board or not, whether they do it or if they don't do it. So the idea was, okay, watch these series of videos and then start creating your list. And then next week, we're going to get together and we're going to discuss what to do with that and start to launch your business. So that was the homework. It was a week apart, et cetera, et cetera. Well, on the day of the call, the distributor could not confirm that they actually pushed the call off to another day. And the question became, well, what do I do?
Mm.
And this created an incredible teaching moment. And it all goes back to what we talked about before. But I created a new video, which is on the Smart Network. It was also sent on Core Consultant, which really it's kind of like the baking of a cake. And that's the analogy I used because I created this. I picked up a recipe off the internet and I looked at the ingredients. I put the ingredients, I put the recipe. And I went down and I said, the bottom line, and you'll see on the video, if you follow the recipe and you use all the ingredients, you're going to end up with what you're supposed to end up with, which is a piece of chocolate cake that you can enjoy. Well, our business is exactly the same in concept. So you bring in a new person, and the first viewpoint that's really important is what do you need? What do you want for your business so that you get what you want? So again, in the early days when I looked at it, I first started selling product, and then I realized, well, I need to make $8,000 a month. Well, I need other people that need to make $8,000 a month. So then I realized, well, that's who I've got to talk to. And again, what I looked at, well, what did I do? Well, I got excited. I invested some money. I learned as much as I could do. And then I said, well, okay, so if somebody else was in the same boat as me and was just as excited, then they would follow suit. And lo and behold, over time, they did. The ones that didn't follow suit didn't. So the key to the message and the key to the lesson is it was based on the admin scale that we did in a previous Mike and Dave call on goal, purpose, policy, plan, projects, orders, ideal scene, valuable final product. So the question I said to the distributor, well, what would be the ideal scene for you? And then it was like, well, the person would have been on the call. They would have been learning what to do. We would have strategized their launch. And so then I said, okay, so then what's missing? And so what it allowed the distributor to do was think about what could have been done to make sure that person was on the call, like, calling them up 2 days before or we're confirmed, letting them know that you got a big guru on the call with you, and we time is very important, and I'm really excited about getting it going. So in other words, we used to call that the Jack call. So it's basically just a confirm. So many times in my life and my career, I'd make an appointments and get no shows. And then I realized, well, that was up to me to make sure that they showed. But here's the interesting point. If you didn't know the ingredient or the step in the recipe and you were not familiar with it, you wouldn't do that. So then you would continue that pattern on and on and on and on with the next person, the next person, the next person. And then you get frustrated and say, well, man, is this going to work for me or not? And rather than look at it from the standpoint of correction and understanding. So, what would be the ideal scene for you going out there and communicating to somebody, presenting them the opportunity, asking them if they're, going through all that stuff that you do on the preamble. The bottom line for me was you'd have somebody that said yes. And here's what I found over time, and I also wrote this in the video, was those people that were truly interested in solving their issue and were really interested in finding a vehicle that would work for them and understood what I said and could really see how to apply it. Those were the guys that became my frontline Royal Diamonds and helped me build the business. And and the other thing here too was that not everybody's going to jump in. Lots of people like to have their problems. It's like people that are sick. A lot of people like to be sick because they get empathy for being sick, or they get sympathy for being sick, or they get help for being sick, or whatever the case may be. But that's that's human beings on planet Earth on 2025. So what you have to look at is you're not looking for those that won't. You're looking for those that will, but we're all of the same ilk in the sense of intelligence. When we have a problem and we're looking for a solution to that problem, if we can get it, if we can get the solution that's being presented, we act on it for the most part. So again, not everybody wants to do that. So you might try this several times and people say, no, I'm not interested. No, I can't do that. Well, fine, but just keep going. And remember that when you do find the right person, you will. So on the admin scale, what we did on that call, or the call that's recorded, is we talk about your goal, we talk about the purpose, we talk about the policy, and in the policy section, it's these videos that Mike and I have done, the Dave Rolfe videos, the Mike videos, the books, anything that worked should be your policy to use. And then you got your overall plan, which is to build Beacon, and then your program. Now, this is the recipe. And the recipe is to take your goal, whatever it is that you're trying to do, go to the end, what it looks like, and then draw that picture. So for let's say that you wanted to make $10,000 a month. Okay, let's go back to humans being more, and let's go back to your life cycle plan and draw a picture of what a $10,000 a month business might look like. And that means that you have to use your compensation plan. You have to understand how it works. You have to see platinums. You have to see golds. Maybe have to see a diamond. You have to see volume because you have to understand how to calculate that volume. But once that picture goes up on your wall, there's your map. And then you just reverse engineer, you go backwards. And just like in the recipe for the chocolate cake. So the last step of the chocolate cake recipe was eating a nice piece of chocolate cake. Well, what was the step just prior to that? Well, it was putting icing on the cake. What was the step just prior to that? Well, it was taking it out of the oven and putting it on cake pans. Well, what was the step just before that? Well, putting the ingredients in the cake pan and let it cook for 30 to 35 minutes. Well, what was the step just prior to that? You see how that worked? And so you can do that with our business. So you have a distributor. Let's say you sign up a distributor and you want them to build your business. You want to get them to platinum. So platinum means they're doing 30,000 points. They should have two or three legs and they should have other people. So draw that picture and then draw what happens just before they go that. And what I did with that many years ago was that all of a sudden I saw this. You remember in the cartoons when in the early days of Disney, they'd write one figure on a page and then they put it on another page and then they'd flip the paper and you'd see the motion of the character going from page to page to page to page. Well, that's basically what I did. And it was like, wow. So if we look at time and we look at, okay, let's say that in just for the heck of it, you found one person a year for the next 6 years, and they all went to Royal Diamond and they all did $1 million worth of business. Just check that one out for yourself to see where you would be. And I just looked at it today. I said, man, I've been a Diamond for 27 years already. Where the hell did that go? It just disappeared. So anyway, check out the video. It'll add to the other things that we've talked about. And as I do more mentoring calls and I get more ideas, I'll create more videos. So that's all I got to say, Michael.
Great.
And
I'm
you
going
can
to
get
pick up on that, Dave. Thank you. And just recap here. So, one point that you made, the first point, which was tasks or challenges that you give someone, their response to that gives you an indication of where they're at in terms of commitment or understanding. And it's important to make note that it could be understanding because you may have said things to them, but they didn't understand and you didn't check to see whether they really understood the task or the challenge or the commitment or, for instance, booking that ABC call. Did they really understand and appreciate the value of the time, of the commitment of the people making this call happen, that they took it so flippantly and didn't meet the timing? So those are really important steps. And I think the more you raise the bar on your expectations and your explanations, it's actually going to give that person an indication that you are serious and that this is serious. The higher you raise the bar. And so when people ask me, well, I'll come to the next event. I said, there is no next event. There's this event. This event was for you. So, and I never give people the impression that I'm doing a cattle call. I'm having an event in my house. There's going to be a bunch of people. I want you to come. No, well, I want to meet with you at my house. Now, the fact that I might have that conversation with 10 people is irrelevant to that one person. I want that person to be in my house and I want 10 others like that person. So each person is treated like an individual and that the meeting is exclusively for them. And that way they don't feel like, well, if I show up, or if I don't show up, they won't miss me. They got a bunch of other people there anyway. I never give that impression because they never believe that to be true. They believe that the meeting is for them. So the second thing you talked about, which brought my mind up, which was the recipe. I mean, there's the overall arching recipe for the business, which you've explained, and then there are nuances within that. So the goals, for instance, to go platinum or to help somebody go platinum, there's a recipe for that. And I have a recipe, for instance, I refer to all the time, which is my recipe for silver/gold. This recipe is unchanged, by the way. It's since I started this business. It's the recipe that gets the job done. And so in that recipe, you mentioned, Dave, that there's a need to understand the steps because if you don't know the steps, then you won't do what's necessary to complete a step. You'll never get to the next step because you're not sure about what the step is in the first place. What's required to know that you're with that person moving on to the next step. I refer to the recruiting process as the partnering process. I call it the partnering process because I think the recruiting process is sort of demeaning. But a partnering process indicates that you're looking to partner with somebody, which in itself, just that word alone says a lot about the nature of your engagement with this individual in this exercise of getting them up to speed on what potentially could be a resolution for their problem, their want. When you said, Dave, some won't. We don't look for those who won't. My mind said we look for those who want. So
Exactly.
they gotta want the sweater. They gotta want
Yeah.
something. So this idea of steps, recipe, there's a process. Do you have a recipe for somebody entering your funnel, knowing nothing about Niken, and exiting the funnel as a customer or a consultant or a partner? Do you have a prescribed recipe? Do you know where anybody is at in that process at any one time? Do you know what the next step calls for, or what level of commitment, or what actually, what activity is necessary to get to the next step? Do you have that locked in? Because if you don't, and if it's just conversations you're having with people with no clear knowing as to what it is that you need to resolve to get to the next step, then it just, as Dave said, it's just ongoing. Oh, well, we'll schedule it next week. Well, we'll make it next week because there's no end in mind that you're working toward, and there's no steps in between that you're trying to lock down. So, very, very important that you have a very clear understanding of the partnering process, the steps that it takes to take a person who knows nothing about Niken, just a name on your list, to knowing enough about Niken to saying yes to one of three things they could say yes to. I want to be a customer. I want to join the business and maybe get a discount at wholesale. Or I want to partner because I got some things I got to get done in this lifetime, and this is a way to get them done. So, do you have that process locked in? If you don't, that's something you got to let us know. You got to let your upline know. You got to let your active upline know because if you don't have a prescription, if you don't have a recipe for every person, then how are you following up? And where are you taking them to? It's really, really important that you follow a process, which in turn is the same thing as saying you follow a system, because it's the system that you need to sell. It's the system you need to teach for duplication. Um, yeah, so process steps. I guess that was pretty much my recap from what you're saying, how important it is to have these things clearly defined so that you have the makings of a business. And by the way, getting back to this strategy chart, you mentioned time, Dave. You said there's a component of time in this. Of course there is, because that's really what we're doing is we're converting time into a result, and hopefully we're multiplying time by adding more people to our network. That's the beautiful thing about network marketing is it's all about the multiplication of time. If you can multiply time, you can have any life you want. Most people are stuck trading time for money. They can't multiply. And so they only have that limited resource where with time being a multiplier, if you can multiply time, your resource now becomes infinite in potential. So time in this map goes this way. So first is you. There, you at the top. Now, in this thing, the triangle, the circle with a triangle around it is very specific. It means something because you'll note, let's see on this thing, there are circles over here. Let's see if I can get it on camera. There are circles over here that don't have a triangle around it. There's 9 people you've enrolled that don't have a triangle around it, but there are 3 that do. What's the difference? Well, again, it's down to what did they say yes to? Oh, and there is another grouping. These circles that are on the side. So these circles that are on the side, those 5 circles that are on the side, those represent customers. So we got customers over here, and we've got people that we've enrolled over here. But out of the people that we've enrolled as consultants, only 3 of them have this triangle around them. What is the triangle? That's my system. It's not my system, it's the system. It's the idea that they have made a commitment of 3 things: time, money, contacts. That's how you know you got a partner. Not just time, Not just money, time, money, contacts. That's how you know you have somebody who's got the ingredients to bake the cake. Because if they don't even have the ingredients to bake the cake, they're not going to be doing much. And who's the first person who has to have the ingredients? Who's the first triangle? You. So
You.
that commitment of time, money, contacts has to start with you. So this is my recipe for duplication. And so once I get the first generation done, that's phase one, then we work on the second generation, phase two. And it's the same thing for them. They're going to have a number of people that they enroll. They're going to have from those people their partners, and they're going to have a number of customers that they have as well. So it's a map, it's a blueprint. It's the idea is fill it out, fill it up. Because when you've done this and this, you're running a gold business. At the very least, this is a gold business. And we know what the income is if we go to the Nikken income sheet, what the average income is for gold. So that's an example. And it's a good example, and you don't need too many more, really. Ultimately, this you can get this at what was the tools? Life and Balance Tools. You can get that from lifeandbalancetools. Is it? I think it's .net. Lifeandbalancetools.net. And of course, where do these people come from? Well, they come from your list. So this is a blueprint. But I was thinking this, Dave, while you were talking, we might want to revisit the idea of having a checklist for getting somebody onboarded, enrolled. And I don't particularly have one. I mean, we used to I do have this one, and I have published this on all the chats and whatever, but it's a little dated. Maybe Dave, you and I can take a stab at this and come up with a nice quick start, boom, 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 boom. That way,
Yeah.
everybody has a recipe to get somebody on the starting blocks. So we know we got somebody on the starting blocks because they've gone through the checklist, which will have their goal and whatnot, etc., their wants and whatnot built out. Now, I do know that Nikken has this in the back office. How many of you have used the one that you find in the Nikken back office? Wow, 2 years in the making and nobody uses it. Okay. Well, there is a getting started in the Nikken back office, but just like you, I'm a little bit stumped at what is it called the curriculum in the back office, the education?
We
It's all
Academy.
the
Thank you,
academy.
We Academy. So the We Academy has, if I'm not mistaken, your checklist. I don't recall if it's a PDF that you can print off, but I think Dave and I, we should probably take a stab at this and come up with something that's really a 10-point plan type of thing of getting somebody on board. That way, you know if they're on board and they know if they're on board because you've gone through this checklist. And in that checklist, that might even just be a meeting itself. That meeting might take place where you go through it together so that you both know they're on board.
One of the advantages on this topic, Michael, that I had was I owned my own businesses and actually recruited employees. And so I had to go through a long-term process of hiring people, and I had to ask them questions in order to find out if they were suitable for what I needed. Now, this is a key to this business as well, because what was really important in this business was I needed another person that wanted to distribute the product and build a giant heap. So I had to figure out how to ask those questions to elicit that kind of an answer. Now, what was really important, I think we'll be able to figure this out, was I didn't want to sell them anything. I didn't want to tell them anything. I wanted to find out who they were first and see if I could get to the bottom line. So would you be, and then of course my famous bottom line was, would if you be interested in making an extra five or $10,000 a month? Could we have a serious conversation?
So
And
that whole thing that you just outlined, that is what I consider the first step in the process.
yeah, exactly.
Because if you don't know their why, what they're about, how are you going to offer them something that potentially could provide them with what they want when you don't even know what they want? I mean, the second you start offering somebody to something or something to someone before they've told you what it is that they're looking for, then you're selling. The second you make an offer to somebody to look at something before you've asked them if they're even open to looking at something, you're selling. So if you want to avoid selling, just find out what they want and then offer that.
That's the interview.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You'll
Step
notice
one.
on Instagram and TikTok what the big deal is with the network marketers today is they're telling you don't listen to your upline, don't create your 100 list, don't do this kind of stuff. We found a way for you to do it. And basically the concept that they're working on is they're looking for the problem and presenting the solution. So it's really they're very clever at this, but again, it's the same thing. So because that's really what we are as problem solvers. And we just have to find the problems and we got to find the right people that are interested in solving that problem and creating that solution.
And by the
Um,
way, just I know Barbara's got her hand up, but a caveat to what you said as well, Dave, an underscore is not everybody wants to solve their problems. They may say they do.
yeah,
They may really be emphatic about that, but they may not
yeah.
actually sincerely be that.
They don't do what's necessary.
Yeah. Barbara.
Thanks, Mike. With respect to the We Academy, I know for a fact that Mary Bowser has been working in conjunction with Nikan Corporate and keeping the We Academy updated for your
So,
information.
okay, I don't have current information on that. I just want to know, is there a PDF for getting somebody started, a checklist? Because I do
Yes,
believe,
yes.
and that's what we want to have a look at.
I
We want to
think
have a
that's in
look at that.
module one. It's set
Yeah,
up in modules. I believe it's in module one.
perfect. And if it's good, if it's up to speed and it really covers the bases, then we have something that we can lean on, and it's accessible to everyone without anybody having to actually produce a tool
And
or
it's up to date on all the compliance rules too.
okay, cool. Bela?
Mike, that strategy chart, I just looked it up, lifeandbalance.net.
Yeah.
That's a coaching site.
Life in no life life and balance
.org,
tools.
I think, Mike.
No, life and balance tools dot
Okay,
net.
I'll check that
Sorry.
out now.
So many names to remember. All right, so far so good. I mean, I didn't think we would hit such nails tonight, but these are pretty important topics here. Like to have a very specific recipe that you're following, both for the communication to someone to, and I know Leo follows a very specific protocol. He has a video series that he sends somebody through in a specific order, depending on whether it's a customer or a consultant. And so he has a very defined process to get the person to say yes. And he also knows what those yeses are that he's looking for. So and many of you on this call have already seen his process, and hopefully you're starting to employ that yourself. Or and by the way, Dave and I are always available to have this conversation. The Thursday night call is a call that helps you grasp this process because oftentimes we refer to a PowerPoint, which I promised I would send you guys a PDF of. So I'll make sure that that's top priority. I have one major event this week on Friday. My son's actually flying in this evening. I gotta go get him at the airport, and we have a major family event this Friday. So until that's out of the way, I'm kind of inundated. But I will get this to you next week because I think it's important to have a reference for all the things that we're talking about. We are visual. We think in pictures and have a business plan and things that you can look at and see and point to, like Dave described. He said, draw it out and then, like those pages, work your way backwards from there. I mean, we can
Just
all do
on
that.
just on that note, what I found very successful in a number of different arenas was if the person understood what I was doing and saw that as something they could do, and the picture represented step A to Z, it was so much easier to communicate. And the message that's most important, besides just having the recipe, is knowing it so that you don't have to follow the recipe. So that if you had to go to A to then C and then come back and do B and then go C and D again, you could do that because you know the plan so well. And if something fell off, you also knew exactly what to do to fix it and repair it so that you end up getting what you want to get quicker versus, chasing a rainbow. And I chased a guy for 7 years because I didn't have that down as much as I do now. So the success comes by learning. So the more you know of what, and when you have your goal, when you have your deal dialed in, you know exactly what you're doing, you know exactly where you're going, you know exactly what you want, and you communicate to that somebody else, they then gain the confidence that whatever you tell them is going to work for them. That's how it worked. That's how it worked when we do these giant team diamond events. People would come there because they wanted to hear the stories of the guys that were successful, so that they could get inspired by those stories and go home and then figure it out for themselves. And many did. And that's what exactly what we're trying to say here is the more you know and understand about what you're telling somebody else, then the more. And then last week, if we go back to last week, how does it work? Well, it works when somebody else does something underneath you. And if nobody does anything underneath you, it doesn't work. And that's what gets frustrating. And then the beauty of what we have is we have exponential growth by going down level after level after level. And the company's willing to pay that 36%, 6 levels of 6% to your organization, which is energy. One of the benefits that I had in my organization, I know Michael has it. He has a lot of people who are making a lot of money, and that energy is keeping the system going. And that's what we do. So, it's being smart. It's just being, you're a business person. Your job is to solve the problems and the situations, and your job is to know what to do. Just like if you went to a heart surgeon because you had a heart murmur, and the guy says, well, I've never done this before. I'm not sure if I know what to do. But I'm willing, I have a hacksaw and a couple of tools here. I'm willing to try and figure it out. Well, would you go to that guy? Hell no, you wouldn't go to that guy. You'd look for the guy that knew everything about what it is that you need and want. And that's the viewpoint that I really want to put across to you, which will change your life forever and a day. The more expert you become on understanding what you have, the bigger you're going to be. It's just that simple. Anyway.
Let me also emphasize one last point, and we'll take some questions, and that is the importance of tools. A wrench is a good example. If you didn't have a wrench, how would you take off a tight nut on your car, or for that matter, anything? It'd be next to
Get a blowtorch.
impossible. So a wrench, though, makes it easy. It allows you to create torque and have leverage and so forth. A screwdriver, how would you get a screwdriver into or out of a wall if you're putting something on a wall without the screwdriver? The screwdriver makes the job easy. But if you had a wrench and you didn't know what it was or what to do with it, or you had a screwdriver and you didn't know what it was or what to do with it, it would kind of be useless to you. There's a task at hand, but you don't know how to use the tools to get the task done. So again, what are your tools that you are resourcing in your recipe? What are the go-to tools that you have at your fingertips, on your WhatsApp, wherever it is you have it, that if you're meeting with somebody, it's not just about a conversation you're having, because that's not duplicatable. What is duplicatable is your ability to share something that they can in turn share with someone. That's a tool. Let the tools do the work. They make the work easy. They make the work light, and they make the work duplicatable. So there must be tools in your process that are doing the communicating. You're just doing the searching. You're just connecting the dots. Your job is the mind. You're orchestrating this. You're the conductor of what's happening here, but you're not playing the instruments. You use the tools. So it's really important that you become proficient at number one, identifying the tools in your repertoire, in your toolbox that you are going to use for getting a person who knows absolutely nothing about Nikan to knowing enough to say yes to either being a customer, a consultant, or partner. What are those tools? Which is why you see me doing PowerPoints all the time. Those are my tools. I create tools, lifeandbalancetools.net. I created that in order to provide you access to the tools that I need for me. But if I need tools for me, that means you need tools for you too, if we're going to be duplicating something. So I created Life and Balance Tools to give you access to the tools that I need for me so that we have a duplicatable process. A lot of what was done there has been built into or taken into account in the We Academy. So I think it's probably a good idea to go to the We Academy and see what resources are there for facilitating this exercise. And by the way, I too am a believer in catalogs. I love hand catalogs, I like to give somebody something that they can peruse through when I'm not there. That's the most important use of my time. What somebody's doing when I'm not there. If the tool is doing its job when I'm not there, then I'm leveraging time. And what did we talk about? How important is it to leverage time? Because that's your resource and you can multiply time. So let me give an example. When I first got started, we didn't have YouTube. We didn't have those kind of things. We literally had a physical video. And there were the big ones, right? The VHS. And what I did was I did what I had to do to get my Nikan business started on a shoestring budget. I went and got one of Nikan's videos that they were using to tell the Nikan story. And I found a video duplicator and I got them to run 1,000 of those for me at $1 a piece. So I had videos at $1 a piece. Yeah, was I violating Nikan's copyright? Yeah. Did they care? No, because I got more videos out into circulation, which was doing the advertising. So anyway, when you enrolled, if you started with that, we would sell those videos as 100 in a box. We just sell you a whole box of 100 for $100. And if you came to one of our meetings, we'd have all these boxes at the back of the room that we took out of the van to sell you a pack. Because if you were joining tonight, you needed to go home with 100 videos. Because guess what you were going to do next? You were going to get those videos into the hands of people that you wanted to learn about this. And we showed you a little bit of, how to get them to actually watch the video, because it's one thing to have a video. It's another thing to get them to watch the video, which is where those demos come in. The strength test. Those are the demos that get people's attention. They say, you want to know the rest of the story? Watch the video. I'll call you tomorrow. So we would use the technique of the demos just to get their attention, just to get their focus away from whatever else they're doing, to at least watch this video. And then, of course, the video does what it does, educates them, and finds out whether or not there's something there. So I'm saying this because in month one, my business exploded. I mean, exploded. And all I think I did different than most people was, number one, I had a plan. And number two, I had 3,000 videos in circulation in month one. 3,000. 321 people joined my team in month one. 3,000, 300, 3,000, 300. It's a 10-to-1 ratio. Duh. So what did I learn? Let the tools do the talking. And there's a saying that we used to say less to more people. Let the tools do the talking. So I think it's important that you have your toolbox and you figure out what that is. And if you're going to ask me, well, Mike, what's the best video? There is no best video. I like the video that I like the best at the time that I like it. So I suggest if there's something that you get excited about, that's your video that you want to share. Paula.
I was just going to ask what link would be comparable to that. Would it be the Empowered Living?
Well, I guess you just asked the question that I just answered.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
So
okay.
you tell me what video gets you excited. If you ask Leo, Leo's got his string of videos. He knows exactly which videos he's going to give somebody. He's taken the time to look at stuff and, refine it, even create his own videos. And I'm not saying that you have to do that. It's not a bad idea to have your own 1 minute video, your own 1 minute story, and say, have a look at this. But the idea of having a toolbox, having a quick access to videos or know where they are. For instance, Niken's YouTube channel. Know where they are. Know what's there. Because if somebody says, well, can you give me some information about the waterfall? What do you do? Do you start talking? Because that's the worst thing you could do. The most duplicatable thing you could do is send them a video or a PDF or something. And there some of that is already on your website. Send them the link to your PWP on that product. So what's your toolbox? Like, know your tools so that when you're in a situation, you can quickly resource them because that again makes you proficient, it makes you duplicatable, and it leverages time because they're then going to do something that you don't have to be there to watch them do. That multiplies your time. Mary Ellen.
There are a lot of things on YouTube, and some of them are older, and some of them are from people who, for one reason or another, either because they've died or they've gone away, aren't involved in Niken. What is your feeling about using those tools? I mean, I'm a little leery to sort of send a tool for somebody who's no longer a Niken wellness consultant.
Sure, I get that. I mean, especially if they show up elsewhere, you don't want, draw attention to that. But there are some tools that I know I have in my toolbox that include people that are not with Niken, and that doesn't bother me if the tool does the job. So, so I guess it's a question of discernment. What do you feel about it? Um, and I just think that obviously the more recent tools are better. And by the way, there's a great tool you have access to, all of us have access to, that's very current. Niken's Instagram page. Their Instagram page is killing it. They've got some really good content on that Instagram that shows Niken as very current and very relevant. So if you haven't explored their Instagram and you're like, well, I don't have Instagram, get over it. Go get Instagram because it's one of the best tools for communicating and marketing in the world. And so it's a very, very helpful thing to have access to, especially when you can just send somebody and they more than likely have Instagram. And you can say, go to this, or send them the link to the Instagram page, and they then can scroll. They can start scrolling, and what they're going to see are beautiful representations of our products and our concepts. And it's getting better every single week. So if you want to make an impression, send them to Niken's Instagram.
That's a helpful thing. I haven't done Instagram before. Guess I need to learn. Thanks.
You're welcome. Bela?
Well, about a month and a half ago, I created a Word document that I put something about each of our systems on. I got the best information from Niken, put it there with my personal web page at the bottom of each page so that when they read about it, they could link it and go to my web page and find the product. And that really got a lot of traction with the people that I ended up having as customers and signed up. And so that's part of my toolbox now. And the other thing that I do is once I do have, when I signed up a consultant, I sent them an email to walk them through how to navigate all the information that they need to use in order to just kind of figure out where they're at with Niken. And
Yeah.
I so that they wouldn't get overwhelmed, because I found it very overwhelming. So I wanted to dumb it down. And I said, don't worry about this. Don't worry about that. We can talk about that later when you get to that stage. But this is what I want you to know. I mentioned you in it, and that, you host this call on Monday. So they're welcome to join the call. And the other calls, I laid that out, how to reach Niken. And I made it clear, any problem you have me as a resource. And they do. They call me and they ask me, how do I do this? How do I do that? And so I just wanted to share those are my tools.
Perfect. Brilliant.
Maybe not as good as
So,
yours, but it's a
hey,
start.
you know what? We are all independent and we all have our personality and our styles, which we can
Yes.
integrate into our business for sure. And so, yeah, and definitely having these things pre-planned, thought out in advance is really
Mhm.
important.
I spent a fair bit of time on.
It's kind of like if you think about, I mean, our business is virtual for the most part. It's a virtual business, right?
Yes.
Which is hard to grasp. It's hard to, how to get your hands on, wrap your head around because you can't see virtual. You can't, it's too bland. It's just not possible to have, it doesn't have the clarity of structure. You know, you go into a new office and they show you where your desk is. They show you where the bathroom is. They show you where the coffee is. You get a sense of where you are and how to react to that environment. In Niken, it's like, okay, here's your PWP.
Exactly.
Now what? So
Now what?
it's just like, and this is a business of networking and talking, and it's just too blah. So having some structure, which is defined by your toolbox and your checklists, helping somebody to step by step, which is, by the way, what the We Academy is intended to be. It's intended to hold somebody's hand through the first little bit of an introduction to get them to familiarize themselves in stages, because otherwise it is overwhelmed. Just the product line alone is
Yeah.
overwhelmed, which
Yeah.
is why we did we have the modules now of the various products in the Royal Alliance YouTube channel because brand night, because it was overwhelming. You can't learn everything all at once, but you can systematically learn. And so that's, again, the word system is in that. So very, very important. Good on you, Bela. Look at that person who just started off as somebody not interested in the business is
I know. I just
total
kind of
business
casually
person.
mentioned my goal was to hit silver by August 18th, and I've done it. And it was like I got this overwhelming response. And I asked Paula, she was here on the weekend, and I said, Paula, I don't know what I did that was so great.
You need to send those papers to Mike Bela. Let Mike see what you have produced.
Yeah, and or you also are on the chats, various chats. You can share that. I mean, the point of us sharing this time is that we learn from each other and we can grow together and we can, best practices is the best way to go in any environment. So if you guys picked up something new and it's really working for you, share it. Please feel free because that's how we all get the benefit.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're at 8:48. I think we're good. This has been a very, very well put together call here. I think there's been a tremendous amount of content shared on this call. Does anybody have any final thoughts before I wrap? Okay, so what's coming up that we need to know about? Any events? Anything on the calendar that we need to focus our attention on, promote?
I got
And
my
we have
boots on the
Empowered
weekend.
Living and the CEO Connection.
Once again,
Empowered Living on Saturday and the CEO Connection Saturday. Just a minute, let me look at my calendar again. Sorry for the delay.
do we know who is on Empowered Living or what the focus is going to be?
They're doing it. It's 50 minutes or less,
Yeah.
and it's been done so far by corporate, and corporate are getting different speakers,
Okay.
3 or 4 people to give a blurb on whatever the topic is for that particular.
Okay. And any
Empowered
other
Living is
events?
the 16th, I think, and the CEO Connection is the 20th.
Okay, put that in your calendar. We definitely want to hear from Senor Luis Kasuga.
But there's always reminders on WhatsApp too.
Yeah, there is. And that should be part of your system, by the way, getting somebody into the WhatsApps so that they're connected. That way they're plugged into the flow of information that's not just you, it's encompassing. Anyway, so there we go.
There's something else too.
Yeah, Norma?
You also have the deadline for the 18th that if we have extra tickets,
Yes.
and
Oh,
also to
yes.
get all the other connections for the Big 50.
That's right, we do. And I have 2 of those tickets. Anybody want to bribe me for them?
I have 2 as well.
Okay, that's good to remind us because that's really coming up that we're already at the 11th now. All right, cool. We're good.
And
Everybody,
I
yeah,
have my boots.
you have your boots? Got mine too. All right, everybody, have a great night. Thanks for joining the call. We'll see you next week.
Thanks.
Thanks, Mike. Good night.